I just pressed the record button, so you're good to go whenever you want.
All right, I will get started with pursuant to MLGC 30A Section 20B and Chapter 20 of the Act of 2021 permitting public bodies to conduct meetings remotely. The committee will meet virtually utilizing the Zoom platform. All votes will be taken by a roll call vote. We will do a roll call vote. Please say present. Kathleen Burns.
Present.
Paul Kearney. Craig McCollum.
Present.
Martin Nee. You have to unmute yourself.
Present.
Ann Roth.
Present.
Paul Schubert.
Present.
Douglas Schultz.
Present.
And Jason Earls present. Okay, so I got some wonderful information from Chris on how to run these, since I haven't done these before. Instead of everyone trying to talk all at once or raise their hand, there's actually a raise hand button on the bottom kind of center of your screen. That'll clue me in to if anybody has a question, anybody wants to make a comment, and then I can go down the order instead of, because I don't want people talking over each other, and it'll just be more productive that way. Because I'm going to try to look as everyone's talking, but I also have some other pieces of paper here that I'm trying to organize. So I just want to be able to track if somebody has something they need to say. The first order of business is the school facilities opening vacancy. I spoke with the select board, and they reached out to a couple candidates. Some backed out, and then others weren't available for their meeting. So they are going to address the vacancy at their next meeting, which is October 5th. So hopefully we will have somebody new at that point in time. Carrie Thompson's gonna let me know what time, and I'll probably join them and pop on for that meeting. So that was the update there. The next, anybody have any questions on that, concerns? The next order is the subcommittee's update on the current school conditions. I have a couple things, but I didn't know if Paul Kearney, Martin, or Doug have reached out and done any research yet on any of this.
I haven't. I wanted to talk it over, the process with the group, and what would make sense. I thought maybe reaching out individually to school committee members, finding out, what they feel the needs are, and also school administrators. Is there any problem with doing that? With it, a cup of coffee, a sit down, a phone call, and just listening to people talk about their facility challenges, needs. Does that sound like the way to go?
I would think so, yeah. When I was at the town hall, I think like 2 Thursdays ago, I actually met with the facilities team. So I met all 3 of them. They're more than willing to talk with us. Even if we have the time, we can tour all 3 schools. We can tour the schools. So we personally, can put our eyes on it. So I think that's a good start too.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's where I will start, right there.
Yeah, okay. Doug?
Yeah, I mean, I've looked into something. I mean, interestingly enough, I had my son's parent night at Osgood the other day. So I was able to walk around and kind of take a look at the school from my own perspective. But what I was I've done some research in the recent past here and spoken to a few people with respect to, an MSBA process. So what that starts with, it sounds like, is a statement of interest. And so we would need to complete and submit a statement of interest to the MSBA. And of that, in that, there are certain things that, we would be providing to them as our statement of interest, because we need to be invited into the program. And so I think what would be helpful, in my opinion, would be to understand what that statement of interest entails and includes, so we could be more effective in asking and looking at what we're trying to accomplish here. But that would be my thought.
Yeah, Chris?
So just to follow up on that, I'm in a communication with Representative Esquino's office, and they've offered to help facilitate an MSBA person to attend any of your meetings, to walk through the process and explain how the whole thing works. So if you want me to help set anything up, just ask.
Okay, I think we should probably do that so we can understand the process. Kathleen?
I was just going to say, I know I'm not on that subcommittee, but I think that sounds like a really good idea to have somebody come and talk to the full committee from that group to explain the process to us. And then I did want to follow up. I think there was some talk on the last meeting about a consulting budget potentially being available. I mean, I think it's great that everybody in the committee is going to do some work on this and get some information, but does it make sense to talk about having a consultant or an expert, really do like a state of the schools analysis for us?
Yeah, that's actually a good idea. And I think Paul's going to talk about this because I don't know if you all saw, he sent the link to Harvard. Paul?
Yeah, so I think one thing would be for town meeting is probably get an article for a certain amount of money for a consultant cost, so that we can get someone who is efficient and experienced and professional in getting through all kind of the legwork that goes with organizing something like this. Not only just a letter to the Massachusetts Building Committee, but also what are we looking for? So, one thing we could do is put to town meeting an article for X amount of money, depending what the cost would be, probably 150,000, I would think would be a reasonable start. And that could organize a lot of I sent that link, and that's only one school, but it's pretty similar to the demographics of Cohasset. It's a middle school, but that person, that consultant could potentially get a lot of the reasonably similar schools together, as well as the legwork to get through the state. That's it.
Yeah, Doug.
Yeah, with regard to that, I mean, I saw what you sent, Paul. I've got quite a bit of other information on that, being that my company built that school. So if we wanted to, talk to anybody with regard to, how to get this started, I can certainly make some inquiries myself without, any, before we present this thing to the town or someone looking for, for some costs. That way, maybe we might have a better handle on, what it is we're really asking for.
Yeah, I think that's something that we should do, Doug. I think you should reach out to whoever whatever contact you have, and get whatever information you can. Because I think at this point we're all at a discovery phase at this point. Chris, I have a question for you. Do we have a budget now, or do we have to request, like Paul was suggesting on an article?
At the moment, no. That said, we're going to be pulling together a draft warrant for the select board next week, and want to talk about allocating a chunk for at least the first stages of this, with as to ask for more in the spring. I've heard numbers all over the map. So again, one of the things that's going to be important too is to get I think an honest project manager on board as soon as possible. And there is a whole process to do that. So I've talked to, I should have Michelle Leary talk with all of you as well about the process for all that. We've done that for town hall, so we know how to do it. And to get them on board, just to lead you through the stage of the process. You may end up switching for the actual building construction, but to have somebody for this process, because an organization that's done this before and knows that all the steps are, it would be super beneficial. Plus, I just don't have an engineer to assign this. We have 2 people on the engineering staff. One is the boss, the other one spends most of his time on water and sewer. So it would be helpful to have people who just do this for a living.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Doug?
Yeah, Chris, do you have a list of candidates for that role at this point for owner project managers, or are you?
We'd have to go and do an RFP. There's a whole process for hiring somebody. I mean, I talked to Michelle Leary more about this. There's a whole procurement process for this. I mean, we could have somebody in place, but it would, but this fall, but it's going to take some time. I mean, there's postings, and then you have to do a review. There'll be a committee and all that.
And someone on your side would be creating the request for proposals?
Yeah, so Michelle Leary is the director of contract and procurement, and she's managed our processes before. Obviously, we want to work with people who know what they're doing. Our project manager for Town Hall, Texas, done lots of work in a lot of places. I think that could be helpful to us in terms of structuring stuff. But RFPs for these things exist all over the place. Obviously, we want to work with all of you too. I'm not going to do this blind, right? We want to make sure we're seeking the right things.
Right.
Way. And again, you've done this before, Doug. You've worked with these guys. You're on the construction side or the OPM side?
Construction side.
Oh yeah. So you've worked with OPMs, right? So
Many.
yeah. And I like anything else, there's firms that are all firms are certified, right? You can't do this without being certified.
Right.
On the other hand, there's some that just fit better, right? Some build beast schools like Waltham, which has 5,000 students, right? And some build more modest schools and they work in space. So you want a firm that's kind of fit our reality a little bit better, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree. And, that's why I was just curious to know if that process has already begun or if it's in the process of happening. But I really do believe that part of what we're doing right now really would be beneficial for us to have that OPM on board.
I agree with you. This is going to take some time, this process. You want to make sure it's a very structured process. The town hall process, for example, that we've been going through is much more open because there's no state structure per se. I mean, there are strict rules on this. The state process to get MSBA funding, Mass School Building Authority funding, is very, very guideposted. So
right.
You want someone who knows what they're doing. This is a feasibility study. There's all kinds of things that have to be done. And you want someone who knows what you have to do.
Yeah, it's a really long process.
Yeah.
It's a very long process.
But
Hey, Kathleen, then Nan.
Sorry, I was just gonna note that it looks like Paul Kearney is in the waiting room as an attendee, so we can maybe let him in. That's all.
Thank you.
All right, Nan?
yeah, here we are talking about building and a building process before we've even gotten there yet. Don't we have to start back with a look at what the goals of education are and how education is going to change in the next 10, 20 years and start there, and also talk about curriculum and how curriculum drives building styles. Just all this talk about building right away seems jumping the gun.
Well,
I
Nan,
agree.
kind of, that's why we have the 2 subcommittees, because I kind of want things to be running in parallel, like focus on how other communities have done their research, how they've built, new buildings, and then, and at the same time, all that's going on, we're still going to do the research. We're going to ask our educators. We're going to ask the public. We're going to get all that information as well so that we have everything for both sides of the coin. Whatever direction we go is the direction, we'll got to find that out. So right now, I think everything is just a discovery. At least that's the way I'm looking at it. Because I don't know what the conditions of the current schools are. We could learn that, hey, we can just remodel them. No big deal. if it works. If it doesn't work, I mean, for me anyway, I think the number one thing is going to be on if we can get at least a survey and information from the teachers, because they're in those buildings. They're the ones that are working there day in and day out. And to me, yeah, we can have a consultant come in, we can have firms come in and tell us, oh, this, that, and the other thing. But if it doesn't work for our teachers, then it just doesn't work. If it works for the teachers, then great, it works. But to me, they're teaching our kids, they live it, they're in it. That's just, I don't know if anybody else has any other opinion like that, but that's just how I see us going down the roads. Because I don't want to go down one road, then pause, and go down another road, pause. I would like everything to be running at the exact same time with the two subcommittees.
Hi, everyone. I'd just like to say, I think, Jason, that's a great idea. The subcommittees of what can we do now? Because we don't want to just say, hey, we're not going to do anything for the next couple of years and have no plan. So I like that idea about breaking it up to see where we're at. I think it's a great idea, by the way.
So the next topic, the subcommittee update on schools of the future. Oh, Doug, did you have something before I moved on?
Yeah, and maybe we can address this as we move further down. I don't feel personally like I was able to get a whole lot accomplished since the last time we met, and maybe that was over, maybe I was looking to do more than what we probably would have been able to do, but I just wanted to try. I know we formed these subcommittees the first time we met. I just trying to understand, are we going to try and formulate that into some sort of an organized thing? I know there was a lot of great ideas about, we can talk to facilities folks and we can talk to teachers and things like that, but we should, I'm just trying to see, are we going to organize ourselves into these subcommittees to the point of being able to get together separately and kind of, put together some of this stuff so that we can, be efficient at it?
The short answer is yes. That's what I would love to happen. And I think that's what we need to happen. And I think between the last time we talked and now, there was just a lot of setting everything up. We're all getting our town email addresses. We're still waiting on our own part of the website. So we're still forming as we're trying to also go down these roads. So yes, I definitely feel that the subcommittees we should start talking within our subcommittees, start formulating plans, start reaching out to whoever we need to reach out in the town, and just start plowing forward on these and try to get as much done as we can, or find out what roadblocks there are, and then we can definitely bring that up at the next meeting. Next topic was the subcommittee for schools of the future. I know, Paul, you sent something out. I don't know if you want to talking further on that.
Yeah, so that kind of gives you a timeline. Again, this is it looks to be a 4-year timeline or possibly longer, because I'm not sure how long they were talking before they set up what would be our type committee. I thought, looking at a couple of schools that are in the same area in size and need, probably a couple of site visits on some of these newer schools that have just gotten either refurbished or maybe they've been totally rebuilt, to see what options are out there. Because I think the functional status of the schools is probably key. How do you 10 years from now have a building that's going to be built or refurbished or renovated? How is it going to be functional 10 years from now? So that, to Nan's point of view, the schools that are in there now, one of the big problems when I was on the school committee, we didn't have ability to put in an internet. We had to actually punch through some firewalls. So that sort of thing, which, you don't know what the future is going to show us, but we can at least look at what's out there brand new and see what's there. So that was my thought when I sent that out. That's one of the newer schools. There's a couple others in the area. But I thought what was important in that is that length of time there. It's 4 years at least. So, we can do as much as we can, but it's going to be a long haul. So those are my thoughts.
Paul, just picking up on that, my hope is that every kid will be back in a classroom, 5 days a week soon. But I don't know how that's going to go. And, I'm in the corporate world, and, I think it's a foregone conclusion that it's never going to be the same. People who have a certain amount of responsibility and management responsibility are going to be in the office a few days a week. And I wonder if there's anyone out there, I know no one has a crystal ball, but are the schools of the future experts looking at this and wondering, is there going to be a certain component of schooling in the future that is remote? Because the reason I bring it up is obvious. You don't want to go out and spend a lot of money on bricks and mortar if it's not going to be, useful for that school model, whatever it is.
Nan?
If you go online to research this issue of schools in the future, there's a huge amount of information out there. And there's quite a bit that's done by the Harvard School of Education, which has a administrators program. And a lot of it is dealing with the issue of whether or not, how you structure the classroom. The differences between project-based learning and the kind of learning that we have now in the schools, and how that relates to the structure of the building. There is just tons of information out there to sift through in addition to looking at schools. And, I think that we need to think about what kind of learning we're looking at in order to think about what the needs will be. Obviously, technology is a huge component, whether kids are at home or at school, but much of the information out there has to do with group learning, cooperative learning, student-based learning, and entirely different school day structures. So I think we need to take all that into account when we're doing this, and we should read that literature and see what people think without reverting to open classrooms of the 70s, which were a total failure. So
Right. I went to work for Cushman & Wakefield, a global commercial real estate firm in 2006, and I left in 2014. And it was only 8 years, but there was a complete transformation of how office space was built out and how it was used. And there were firms, big global companies that get caught, finishing the old style at the time when all their competitors were building the collaborative workspace that we see today. And I don't have any answers for anyone here, and I don't claim to be an expert, but I wonder if there's a trend building right now, and that's going to affect what the inside of a school looks like.
Paul?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the pandemic has really changed what we're doing now. We're doing an open meeting on Zoom, which didn't exist a year and a half ago. And the corporate level, not to mention the educational situation. When I was a kid, you had a snow day the whole day. It's done. Well, we've had a glorious snow day for the last year and a half, and the schools have had to continue. So that modified, that dual system of in-person learning as well as online learning, and a group learning and a individual learning is going to be a huge part of this interaction that we have with the teachers, the parents, the students. And I think it's going to be incredibly important. I think you're right. The interior of a school may be very well an entirely different situation because there'll be a whole internet access availability that we didn't have, even honestly, even 2 or 3 years ago. So I think that's going to be a huge key component. If corporate world can do it, the educational world is going to have to follow suit as well. That's it.
Doug?
Yeah, I mean, I can tell you, as someone who does this every day for a living, this has really taken quite a transformation, over the years. I was building schools in, 1995 and 96, and I'm building schools today, and the schools are very, very different today than they were then, both inside and out, and in the past, year or two, things have really changed, in the industry with the architecture, with with everything, the systems, the inside, the building, the fresh air turns, everything like that have been they're a lot different. And the schools I see that are being designed today, and I see them in several of the towns and cities in this state. As I mentioned, we built the Hildreth School in Harvard. We are working on several schools over in Wellesley right now that are actually currently being built. And a lot of those schools are very, unique in each of those towns. They're very, they seem very town specific and really designed to meet the specific town's wants, needs. So I think there's a lot to be researched and looked at in that respect. There's the schools we currently have. I gotta say, as I said, I was in Osgood the other day, and that school is not really what's being built today.
I don't think any of the schools that we have in town are what's being built today, Doug. Is anybody else from the Futures Subcommittee?
Sure. I was part of that subcommittee. My understanding was that we were charged with gathering information about what other districts had done. We are in the advantageous position of being, I think, amongst the latter half of local districts to make a move of this nature. So we have the benefit of I think, gathering insight from some of our neighboring communities. Should we decide to
start cooking, Dan?
Should we decide to build new facilities? As such, I reached out to Duxbury, and I had a lengthy discussion with one of the individuals in my hometown. And so I had a conversation with an individual that was part of basically this committee when they were evaluating the needs in their district and ultimately decided to build a new middle high school. For those of you who don't know, probably everyone knows, but I'll just state it for everyone's edification. Duxbury's probably about twice the size of Cohasset, similar demographic, similar student composition. And Duxbury built a new middle high school, one facility that houses 2 schools. So it's a pretty good it's a pretty good model for us to just look at as an example. Duxbury did, as I think Nan and perhaps Paul earlier, I can't remember who said it or had alluded to, that a feasibility study, I think Paul did say that, would be an important first step. And someone mentioned that, we'd need to get money from the town, and that is absolutely what Duxbury did. They had a feasibility study done. The feasibility study was done by a company called Dorr and Whittier. It cost $200,000. And that feasibility study revealed to them that renovations were really cost prohibitive when you looked at what benefits that would yield in comparison to what the cost of an all new facility would be altogether. That would, obviously take them into the next time, a little bit more seamlessly, the next era, I should say. So that cost them $200,000. The overall price of the middle high school for Duxbury, once it was done, was completed about 8 or 9 years ago. and it was a $135 million facility. Again, they're twice the size of our district. So you could, she said you'd probably be safe to trim that down almost by 50%, not quite. This is someone that she was part of the committee, like ours. It was constituted purposefully. So like ours, folks on that committee, including the individual I spoke to, have professional involvement in the construction industry. This woman is in architecture, and so she's familiar with the industry. Their feasibility study was a 7-month process, and like I said, at the end of that, it was decided that they needed a new facility, and so they hired an OPM. She said that it would behoove us to hire an OPM that was very well familiar with the MSBA processes. So you need to be very, aware and cognizant of the timelines there, which I think, we for the most part are. You're not always accepted the first time around when you apply, but that OPM will, and the feasibility study itself will all assist you in developing in creating your application. You do include, as I think Doug said earlier, it might've been Marty, I can't remember, an SOI along with that, that application. And then it takes them several months to decide. Duxbury was, they were invited to participate the first time around. It sounds like there's a fair amount of politics at play with these things, as I think anything, of this nature. And so they were invited to participate the first time around. From start to finish, it was about a year and a half of feasibility, the application, the hiring consultants, and being invited to participate. It was a year and a half for the design and the bid. They used a model school. There are two sort of options generally. It's one, using a model school that obviously has been constructed in the past. A number of districts have probably adopted it. And so it's sort of a tried and true measure. It sounds like a really good way to go because it cuts off a lot of time and a lot of obstacles have already been addressed for you or challenges. Then obviously you can design your own facility that's specific to your own needs. But obviously, even with a model school, the particular and specific needs of each district are taken into consideration. Obviously, within that box, you can create, your different your different rooms and infrastructure that suits your community and what your OPM and your design professionals and consultants recommend. So a year and a half for feasibility, year and a half in application, year and a half for design bid, and then 2 years for construction from groundbreaking to completion, making it an overall about a 5-year process. So yeah, I mean, that's basically information I got. It just gives us, I think, I just sort of some rough idea of, various costs and timelines. This is just one district. But and obviously if we're building a physically smaller structure than Duxbury, which it would be physically smaller, then obviously you're trimming down a little bit on construction time. Probably not too much, but, enough to be, I think warrant a note. And yeah, so, the town would have to, the other thing she mentioned is that, in any project, you're going to get the full price tag, and the MSBA obviously, for lack of a better phrase, subsidizes a portion of that depending on your community's needs and your application and your project. But the town at a town meeting, whether it's a special town meeting or annual town meeting, needs to approve a bond in the amount of the full bid. So regardless of what the MSBA signed on, they still have to approve the full amount. And so that's what I learned about Duxbury and their endeavors in that community.
Okay, thank you, Craig. So it sounded like we really need to get an OPM and a feasibility study going. I think those are the two important pieces to really get us going here.
And Jason, I should note, because Nan brought this up earlier, we want to look at like what the needs are. And as you noted, I also, Pat Sullivan's willing to come on and give like a state of the schools to us to Marty's point earlier, in terms of like where we're at, and I think Nan raised it as well, like, you know, where we're at in terms of our schools in this community. I think that's just one piece of the puzzle. I mean, he's the superintendent and can give a good, I think, perspective, or, you know, or a good overview from the leadership's perspective. But, you know, to everyone, I just can't keep track of who's saying what, but someone noted the teachers and staff. Obviously, that's a valid perspective too. And frankly, you know, some of the upperclassmen students, I think, would have valid perspectives as well, even though, you know, they may not be as concerned with the economics of it, and maybe the inner workings of it from a town governance perspective. You know, they went through their entire experience there and might have some keen insight. And probably, you know, frankly, you know, funny enough, you know, high school juniors and seniors probably have, you know, the closest, you know, relationship to technology in terms of the classroom and how it's utilized than any of us on the screen. But the feasibility study, the one thing I want to note was that addressing Nan's concerns as to, like, you know, what the needs of the schools of future are. That will be like part of the process. You know, you hire these consultants, and, like, you know, that you know, there's people that do this for a living and will help us. Not that it's left entirely up to them, but it's a major part of that process is educating us in what's necessary. And it's not like all 9 of us know exactly what we would need, to Nan's point. And there are people that, you know, that's part of their job, the consultants and the you know, the feasibility study. They identify these areas of concern or major ones that they see time and time again. So that's just, you know, it's somewhat covered in those things. So I don't know, I thought it was warranted to make a comment there.
Does anyone know what like a range of what could be expected from MSBA in terms of funding? Is it, you know, 5%, 10%, 50%? What's like an average range?
I
Do you
asked
know?
them that, Marty, when I was doing my initial efforts, and unsurprisingly, they wouldn't. She wouldn't, you know, give me a ballpark. I mean, I think it seems like it varies greatly.
Yeah,
From community to community, project to project.
depending on their,
And it's also tied, obviously, to economics, right? I mean, you know, some towns have more resources financially than others, and so, you know, I think a major part of that is to ensure sort of equity across the board as well. But so, yeah, I think there's a lot of variables involved in that question from my very, you know, amateur understanding of all.
And I can also, you know, Alethea still wants to be a part of this, even though she's not a member. We can use her as a consultant and pick her brain, which I plan on doing anyway.
that's great.
Paul?
So in the past, the peak amount that the state would give would be 60%, 600%. Over the last 15 years, that's come down to, my understanding, it's not been any higher than 40% of the total cost, and it does go a needs base. So I know Rockland got pretty close to 40% with their, and other towns will get a little less than that if they are, you know, economically able to support it. But at this point, I'm unaware of anything above 40%.
Okay. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks.
Doug?
Yeah, Paul, I would concur with that. That's the information I've heard as well, and that it's really based on the town's, you know, ability to support. And so I would expect that we would not get near the 40%.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. I guess the next order.
Jason, I think Nan was trying to say something, Jason.
Oh, yep, there it is. Nan? You're on mute.
You're on mute, Dan.
Can we make a plan for what each subcommittee is going to do before the next meeting?
Yes. We can.
For example, I think on our committee, I'd like to visit that school in Harvard and also do a little reading about future educational needs. And I think we could probably do that by the end of October. And I don't know about anybody else, but what other plans should we have for our groups?
I mentioned earlier, I'll definitely plan to meet with the school committee facilities team and whatever administrators I can connect with. just to talk about local programs and needs and, you know, what their view of the landscape is, how they view the world.
Doug?
Yeah, two things. One is, Martin, I would be, you know, I would really enjoy being able to be a part of those meetings if I could. And then the other is to Nan's comment about visiting Harvard Hildreth. Paul, I don't know what connection you have with them, but if you do need some help in getting a tour set up for that facility, I may be of some help to get you that.
That'd be great. Yeah, my only connection was, honestly, it's a socioeconomic parallel to Cohasset. So I've been following that from my days on the school committee and the education foundation, because it was a pretty close outline of what Cohasset would expect for the schools. And, you know, they've done things like not naming the school a public school. They call it the Bromfield School. And so when the kids apply, people think it's a private school, which I think it's a stellar option. I mean, it's really a nice way to name the schools. But that was what I've been following. That, and the other one is Medfield is the other larger school, but that's a similar socioeconomic and education background, housing starts and housing costs, things like that. That's it.
So, yeah, so I mean, I can make some inquiries tomorrow and see if I can, you know, facilitate or get the names of the right people to be able to facilitate that visit.
Kathleen?
Yeah, I was just going to note that I would definitely be interested in the visit. And I also had some preliminary conversations with some people in Hingham. I know that some of their new schools are older, but they're also working on a process for a new foster school. So there's some folks there who have some insights. And then in Waltham that I can report back on at the next committee. They're also in the early stages of their new high school process, but they've done some of the legwork that we're talking about here also.
Okay. Sounds good. So I think we got a task ahead of us for both subcommittees. Chris, I'm going to work with you on anything I need to do for the money aspect for RFPs and getting in, you know, feasibility study and all that other stuff. Yeah, Chris.
Yeah, so if I could just spend a couple, if you're going to move on to the next future meetings, I can, if tell me what you want to do next time around. I could definitely have Michelle come in to talk about the procurement process, the OPM and all of that, and maybe talk about getting that process started. And I can start working with her now to do that.
Yes.
So we can move along on that. So I got that. Do you want to have, as a group, have someone come in from MSBA just to give you like a one-on-one of how the process works? It's not about building, it's just about what you have to do. Just to
Yes,
check all the boxes.
I think that would benefit everybody.
Okay, so let me work on getting somebody for that meeting as well. And again, I think Craig made a very good point. I think it'd be great if none of you have read the school or any of you have read the schools have a strategic plan. It's on their website. I would encourage you to look at it. And there's a whole section about teaching and curriculum and all that, and just see what their vision. They just came out with this. In fact, I saw Craig and Pat and Leslie at the farmers market. So are you planning on appearing at the farmers market again, Craig, or is that done?
It was a two-part process for the fall. I think that, you know, I like the idea of the public schools being there, regularity. It's just a lot for the administrators to ask the administrators, but yeah, we'll do it again for sure. I don't think we'll do it again this year, but we'll probably do it again.
So just say if it was on Thursday, you could just wander by and chat with them. But it's on the schools. It's on the website of the school. So take a look at it. There's actually a PowerPoint. I think is there a video too, or is it just a PowerPoint?
So it's a PowerPoint. There's actually it's 4 compass points, and one of them is focused on resources as well. So yeah, I mean, there's teaching and learning goals, but there's also resources goal. So point, and it's a 3 to 4 year strategic plan. So we'll have to reassess at that time.
So I don't know. Do you want to? How long a meeting do you want? I mean, you can see if Dr. Sullivan's available, and he might be able to give you.
Well, I think, Chris, that's a good point, because Marty was saying earlier. Marty, I think what I'd email Lance Dial and Paul Kearney and CC Pat Sullivan, And then whether you just attend one of their meetings or they set up something in particular for you to sit in and talk to the sort of the right people, that might be a good thing for you to do. And then, and maybe that obviates the need to have Pat do this. And maybe Marty can come back and report to us, at least preliminarily on that. And once we need something more formal, I'm not telling you, Marty, what to do. I'm just saying it might be I'm just trying to provide some suggestions in terms of who to contact. That's all.
Great. No, I appreciate it. And I did notice they had a recent meeting, but unfortunately I was not able to attend it, or I would have gone that route.
Yeah, they did. They meet pretty frequently. I mean, Paul and Lance are they're really into that stuff. So I mean, they meet pretty frequently. I can also, you know what? I'll just send an email and I'll CC you
Yep.
and send it to Lance and Paul. Tell them to let you know when the next meeting is, and
Sure.
and I'll CC Pat. Just sort of give them the outline of what you're looking to do, and I'll connect you.
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
So I'll get an MSBA rep and I'll get Michelle to talk about procurement process and see if we can't get maybe a draft circulated to you of what the RFP looks like and what kind of.
Is that for the feasibility consultant?
Yeah, well, it's for a project man, OPM, to manage that process. Because as I was saying, I think you were on this before. Everyone was on. I don't have a staff engineer or anyone who signed this, right? I don't think Pat does either. So it's going to be important that this gets staffed, that this committee gets staffed with professional support, and OPM is going to drive the process forward.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and they can also help for other folks as you need. And I was talking about getting an and also have on the agenda a warrant article. At this point, I was looking at a number of between 100 and 250. I would expect that's going to be all 250 special town meeting, and that would be money to get through spring. And that won't be available to December. The special town meeting is December 15th. There's a little bit of money that's needed for certain things in the interim. I could try to find something unless the schools have money that Dr. Sullivan can find. But that would be a money to be set aside that rolls. It's going to roll forward. It's not stuck to a budget year. It will be assigned to this project. So that's what it looks like we'll have. And again, might as well just assign the 250, right? Unless there's some objection to that number, and that'll be money that will be available to assist with this process into the spring until more money would be allocated based on at that point a different assessment needs. Does that make sense? I mean, again, I'll have something more formal for you in the next couple of weeks. But does that make sense as a starting point?
I think so. Yeah, I think that's good.
I was trying to plan ahead with Don for money for this. So so we have the MSBA procurement process, then your subcommittee updates. I might recommend, you don't have to do this, but it might not be a bad idea to have a point person from each of the subcommittees, just to kind of like as an organizer. You don't have to do that, but it's up to you.
Yeah, we can assign that right now. Any volunteers for the current school conditions is myself, Paul Kearney, Martin, and Doug. Doug, Martin, you guys, either one of you want to?
I'll throw my hat in.
Okay, and then the futures, we got Kathleen, Craig, Nan, and Paul Schubert.
I'm
Yeah.
happy to do that if nobody else wants to.
All right, Kathleen. Thank you both for volunteering. Okay, so the next topic is setting the schedule for the next meeting. Typically been doing it the fourth week, so that would be October 26th at 7.
I think you already said it.
Did I send that one? I wasn't sure which one we did and which one we didn't do.
I think you said 2, so we would be prepared. I'm looking at the. No, Nan didn't have it listed. I thought we talked about it. I know I had Tracy set up a time. The problem with the 26th is it was a select board meeting, and I have you for the 26th, right? I have it down for 26th. Does that sound right?
Yeah, 10/26. Yep.
Right. Okay. And that's what's set. If it works for all you stuff. So.
Do we want to set one for November now, or does the committee just want to do it on a month to month. I know November is getting a little, you're starting to get into holidays and stuff.
I would encourage you just to, it's not a bad idea to schedule out in the next couple of months if you could. I know you were trying to set a regular dates.
So we have in November, the fourth Tuesday is the 23rd, which is, right before Thanksgiving. If that is a no-go,
I can't do that one.
okay. What if we pushed it to November 30th, the following Tuesday? Is that good for everybody?
Works for me.
Better.
Okay, so November 30th.
Fine by me.
Gotta be some, that's gotta be a select board meeting. That's okay. I mean, I'll have someone else cover that night. So I mean, there's gotta be some conflicts. It's just the way it's gonna work. So.
And since we're on it, we might as well, we'll do December too. We do the 30th, and the fourth week is December 28th, which is after Christmas. I know a lot of people are probably not going to be around. I don't think that's going to work for me. I'll probably be in New Jersey that week. So we could either do it the 21st, which is the week before, or we could push to January 4th. Thoughts?
I'm thinking January 4th.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, 3 weeks is kind of a tight turnaround. Yeah.
All right, so we will do January 4th. And that'll get us into the new year.
2022.
Here already. Time flies when you're having fun, Martin.
Crazy. Yep.
Okay, next one is any topics not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours. I had no emails, nobody sent me anything. So does anybody have anything that they received? If not, then we shall, okay. Nan sent out the minutes from our meeting on 8/31. Has everybody had a chance to review them, look at them? Any changes needed to be made?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of August 31, 2021.
Do I have?
Second.
And Martin seconds, so roll call vote. Kathleen,
Oh, yes, approved. Yay. Sorry.
it's okay. Paul Kearney, he disappeared. Craig McClellan,
Hi, Craig McClellan.
Martin Nee,
Hi, Martin Nee.
Nan Roth,
Hi, Nan Roth.
Paul Schubert,
Paul Schubert, aye.
Douglas,
Doug Schultz, aye.
and Jason Earls, aye. Minutes approved. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. So roll call vote again to adjourn. Kathleen,
Aye.
Paul Kearney is still not on. Craig McClellan,
Hi, Craig McClellan.
Martin Nee,
Hi.
Nan Roth,
Hi.
Paul Schubert,
Paul Schubert, aye.
Douglas Schultz,
Doug Schultz, aye.
Jason Earls, aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Great
Thank
job,
you.
you